The Japanese TOUGE week is upon us in Motorfest, and we have a new summit, so I've got a new guide for you. Let's go! I just want to give a special shout out to Simgii. He's a phenomenal racer and a great content creator. You guys should definitely follow his channel. He helped me a lot with some of these cuts and the lines that we should be taking on some of these races. And without his support on this video, I don't know that I would have been able to bring you exactly the best options for this summit. So shout out to him, and you guys should definitely go check out his channel and subscribe. All right, let's get into it. Starting off with the cars that you're going to need for this summit, you get the Summit Bundle, which comes with the Lancer Evo X and the 370Z Z34. And you're going to need a few additional vehicles if you want to do well in this summit. I recommend the Forsberg Racing 370Z Pro Drift car for the races and the RX-7 Drift Edition car for the drift events that do not require you to use one of those Summit Bundle cars. In addition to that, you're going to need a slalom car of your choice, and what I mean by that is whichever car is the fastest that you have a full set of score breaker parts on, you need to use that for your slaloms. The keys to this summit are your pro settings, the slippery, hothead, and drifty affixes, and the control that you have over your speed. You're going to need to use control versus speed. Now, obviously, a lot of these are races, so you're going to be going fast as possible, but your control is more important because these are drift cars and they're not super easy to control. So try to control the car as opposed to just railing through corners with a lot of speed. That's going to get you in trouble and it's going to send you into the dirt. And finally, the last key to this summit is the gutters. The gutters are the part that's sort of where the road drops off into the dirt. If you put two wheels into the dirt and you keep two wheels on the pavement, your car sort of hooks on that, what we call a gutter, and it helps you make that turn without drifting or losing traction going through it. So gutters are important. They're going to be important throughout this entire summit for a lot of the races, and there's a couple of races that are really important, like the one you're using the Lancer Evo X on. All right, let's get to the pro settings. These are going to be super important. This is what I've got for the cars that I've recommended here, but keep in mind for the drift trials, these are the actual drift events, not the races. I recommend turning off traction control, but if you find it a little too slippery or just not to your liking, go ahead and put it on sport. It is okay, but the car will feel a little bit more grippy, and from my experience, you're going to need to manage your speed a little better on these courses and maybe use a little bit more NOS. For the racing, however, you need to have this thing fully maxed out. I want traction control all the way onto comfort. You need it all the way up. It just helps with limiting wheel spin in turns. It's very beneficial. All right, let's move into the events. So the first two events are called Born to Drift and Know Your Limit. These are your drift events. The keys to scoring high on these events will be your multiplier. And to increase your multiplier, which is also called your combo, you just need to keep successive drifts going without hitting anything or without driving for a long period of time without initiating a drift. So just keep drifting and don't hit anything. I know that sounds a little bit easier said than done, but after a few tries with these pro settings, I think you'll get the hang of it no problem. Now, your affix are really important here. They are what allows you to max out your multiplier at 188 times the score. The best case scenario is to have 7 legendary parts. The set bonus itself is not super important. As long as you have 7 legendaries, you'll be fine. And you can usually get 7 legendaries within about an hour by using the escape method for gaining parts. Once you have your 7 legendary parts, make sure you max out slippery and hothead on each of those parts. Then go to your legendary parts and make sure you have both slippery and hothead maxed out, as well as drifty. Drifty is a very important one in these events because it allows you to continuously tap your NOS whenever you need it. It makes your NOS bottle fill faster while you're drifting. If you notice in the gameplay here, I'm using NOS a lot. It helps with speed and angle, so definitely have drifty maxed out in your legendary points. A score you should be shooting for is around 300,000 points for both of these events. That should get you a ton of points in the summit, but 500,000 is fairly easy if you don't hit any walls and you keep your combo going for the entire time you're drifting. Tireless is our first race, and there are 3 cuts in this one. This is also the race known as Kayusha Spirit. It's where I do all of my streetcar testing, so I'm pretty familiar with it. There aren't any real super crazy cuts. Most of them are just across the grass. At 15%, you're going to cut across the grass on the left, and you're going to do the same thing at 20%. Then you're going to do exactly the same thing again at 54%. And then some additional advice for you: when you're going up the hill, make sure you're using the gutter turns by putting 2 wheels in the dirt, and doing the same thing when you're heading back down the hill towards the finish line. All right, moving on to clutch kick. This one has a ton of cuts and different lines that you should be taking. So since this is a lap race, I'll let my first full lap play out so that you can see the lines that I'm taking. There are a ton of little corners that you can just cut across, or things you can go through, and checkpoints you can be on the outside of. Just take note of what I'm doing here, and honestly, this run actually can be optimized. I didn't take this the best, but the lines I'm taking are exactly where you should be. But for me, I need to maybe do it a little bit cleaner. All right, moving on to the drift ruler. Now this is by far the most difficult race in the entire summit. There are 4 main cuts that you're going to want to know. At 9%, you can cut across the grass to the right. This was a tough one, but you can kind of drift it and then get back on the road. Don't worry if you hit the wall like I did, not a big deal, but you can definitely do it a little cleaner for a little bit extra time there. At 21%, you can cut directly towards the checkpoint and then reset your car. At 46%, you can do the same thing, cut directly towards the checkpoint and reset your car. Now this next one is really tough, but it makes a big difference. At 62%, you can cut left and jump over the hill and use NOS in the air to carry your momentum and gain speed going into the grass on the other side. You just continue through that grass like you see here, directly towards the next curve, which leads to the next checkpoint. Now this one might frustrate a lot of players, but it can save you a lot of time, like 3 to 4 seconds, maybe even more if it's done cleaner. Mine wasn't super clean. You can actually hit that jump a little bit straighter and carry a lot more speed through there, and you'll make up a couple more seconds. It is a crazy cut, and it's very difficult, but if you can get it, it's going to help you a lot on your times. And lastly, most of this race, you're going to need to be using those gutters like I've been mentioning this entire video. Literally every chance you get on this one, every sharp turn or semi-sharp turn, you need to throw your car into the gutter and make sure you stay there. If you're flying out of the gutter, it just means you're entering it with too much speed. If you're using the full racing line arrows, you want to get into the gutter when it's right around the yellowish color. That kind of helps you stay in there, and you want to kind of keep your throttle at about half when you're going through it. All right, moving on to Hawaiian Drift Days. This is the last race of the summit. There are 5 main cuts that you're going to want to know. At 7%, you can cut across the dirt to the right. This is another one of those sort of driftier turns, but yeah, try to stay on the road if you can. If you go with a lot of speed and hit the wall, you end up losing a little speed, but you can definitely do that as well. It's not super important, but definitely cut across the dirt. It's much faster than taking the road. At 20%, you can cut towards the next checkpoint and then continue on to do the same thing all the way through to the next checkpoint after that. Then at 58%, you can go directly towards this checkpoint and reset your car. Make sure you're turning right during your black screen before the car resets, and stay off the gas until your car spawns in. That should help you control it coming out of that reset. It's kind of a weird one because it puts you sort of angled towards the outside of that turn. So just be turning right during that reset and then stay off the gas until the car spawns in. At 63%, you can cut left towards the checkpoint and then slow down when you get close to the road to transition back onto the pavement. As you can see from this gameplay clip, it's kind of crazy to transition back and you sometimes can lose control. So just control your speed going into it, you'll be fine. And then at 87%, you can cut to the right through this parking lot. Your visual cue to cut are these yellow tractors right here. And then make sure when you're coming through, stay to the left of the cement trucks. It is easy to hit those because you try to cut it a little bit too tight and then you end up hitting those trucks. So try to stay to the left of those. And that's about it for that one. Let's move on to the slaloms, and all three slaloms require the similar or the same strategy. The most important thing is to have a car with a full set of Scorebreaker legendary parts with skilled and pure maxed out for all of the parts. That's actually the most important thing for these slaloms. It's more important than driving a fast car. If you took a Street 1 car that has a full set of Scorebreaker legendary parts and you ran it, you would get a higher score than if you took a racing car, for example, that does not have all of those parts on it. So definitely make sure you have skilled and pure maxed out on a full set of Scorebreaker legendary parts. All right, that's it for this one, guys. Have fun. It is a sort of a weird summit because you're using drift cars on races and it's strange and I don't know. Anyway, it's crazy. It is fun though. I actually enjoyed it. If you have any questions about it, DM me on Instagram, Twitter, or Discord. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helps, and I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.
you.